Thousands of new species are scientifically described each year, with only a handful successfully grabbing the public's attention. From tiny hidden mammals in the forests of South America to ocean giants hiding in plain sight. In this video, we're looking at over 25 species that were formally described in 2025. In the Rio Abiseo National Park, situated in the cloud forests of northern Peru, researchers trapped a male specimen of mouse opossum that they didn't recognize. It was similar to other species, but with a few key distinctions. It had a long and narrow snout with lighter fur than on its head, reddish-brown dorsal fur, a dark facial mask that didn't extend onto the ear, and a tail that's significantly longer than its body. DNA sequencing and closer cranial and dental examination later confirmed that it was new to science, and it was named the Chachapoya mouse opossum, in honor of the Chachapoya people, the warriors of the clouds, that lived in the region before the arrival of the Incas. No other specimen has been found yet, so not much else is known about the species. The Andean porcupine is an arboreal species, and historically, many of the porcupines found throughout Ecuador, Colombia, and Panama were assumed to belong to this species. But past genetic work had suggested that there were likely more than one species being confused for one another. In 2025, researchers published more detailed genetic and morphological analysis, confirming at least 3 separate species. The species from the Andes of Ecuador continues to be called the Andean porcupine. In the Chocó Darien ecoregion of northwestern Colombia and Panama, the species is now called Rothschild's porcupine, while the newest, third species described this year, Voss's porcupine, is found in the wet and dry forests of the Magdalena Interandean Valley and the Caribbean region of Colombia. All 3 differed genetically, in their cranial morphology, and in their fur color, spine coverage, and overall proportions. In southern Idaho's Snake River Plain, the Paiute ground squirrels north of the Snake River were long known to look a little different, being smaller than other populations with paler fur. Ground squirrel species can be hard to distinguish, and these ground squirrels were just considered a regional variation. But when researchers pulled together broader evidence across its range, they found that the populations north of the Snake River were actually an undescribed species. And in 2025, they were described as the Snake River Plains ground squirrel, an Idaho endemic with a patchy distribution across roughly 30,000 square kilometers. 2 subspecies have also already been recognized within this newly described species, reflecting an east-west structure across the plain. A strange new species of rodent was discovered this year living on the forested slopes around the world-famous Machu Picchu. Researchers trapped a rat that was unlike most South American rodents, and it showed clear adaptations to life in water, including dense, water-repellent fur, partially webbed feet, and a body shape suited for swimming in fast-flowing streams, as well as for moving through dense underbrush. It also has tiny ears that aren't visible through its fur, an adaptation hypothesized to help it stay warm. Genetic analysis revealed that it was not just a new species, but a completely new genus. It's now known as the Incan Water Rat, and it's one of the few known semi-aquatic rodents in the Andes. The shrews of Ethiopia are diverse, but with many looking very similar and little research being done to differentiate them, there are probably several awaiting scientific description. In 2025, one new species was finally recognized, Stanley's dwarf shrew. It lives in Afro-alpine grasslands where nights are cold and oxygen is thin, and it's so small that even among shrews, it's considered a dwarf species. Stanley's dwarf shrew has consistent differences in size, skull shape, and dentition from any other known species, and genetic analysis has confirmed that it is distinct. It's among the smallest known species of mammal in the entire world, and it was named after the Stanley Plateau, where it was first discovered. In the montane forests of western Amazonia, researchers working in the Serra do Divisor of Brazil documented a Tinamou that stood out immediately, both for its appearance and its call. It has a striking dark slate facial mask, vivid rufous cinnamon underparts, and a uniform brownish-gray back. But its most unusual feature is its voice, having long, powerful songs that carry across steep montane slopes and produce a deep, resonant echo. It's being called the Slaty-masked Tinamou, and it's believed that the entire population is restricted to the Serra do Divisor massif, with an estimated total number of just over 2,100 individuals. In the forested karst of the southern Fold Mountains in Papua New Guinea, researchers identified a jewel babbler with a unique plumage pattern. The birds have a brown hood-like marking on the crown of the head, which contrasts sharply with their white chin and black mask around the eyes. It was thanks to their distinct vocalizations as well as their unique plumage coloration and pattern that researchers were able to separate them from other closely related jewel babblers, leading to the name hooded jewel babbler. The species is only known from Iagifu Ridge, where it appears to be exceedingly rare. In the tropical limestone forest around Vieng in northwestern Laos, herpetologists documented a new species of a lance-headed pit viper. The Vieng lance-headed pit viper has different skill counts and coloration from other closely related species. Its most striking feature is the yellow-orange wash of color on its head and the 3 faint dark vertical stripes that run down each side of its snout. The rest of the head is much darker, and the body is brown to grayish-brown with dark blotches edged in black that form an interrupted zigzag pattern. It's currently known only from a small area of Vientiane province, and its rarity and small range mean that it's already considered endangered. On the rocky plateaus of India's eastern Ghats, a new species of reptile was described this year that almost looks like a snake, but it's actually a lizard. Researchers were re-examining skinks that had long been lumped together when they noticed one population that didn't quite fit with the others. They were more slender than their close relatives, with a more elongated body and subtle but consistent differences in scalation and proportions, and genetic analysis confirmed that they were between 4 and 10% different from other related species. The Deccan gracile skink is confined to the Deccan Peninsula, where it inhabits the dry, open habitats of the region. Before 2025, the East African black mud turtle was believed to range across a large part of eastern Africa, although populations from different regions didn't all look quite the same. When researchers re-examined specimens from across the region, they found genetic and morphological differences that indicated that a species might have been overlooked. There appeared to be 3 distinct lineages, 2 of which were closely related. As a result, Hynek's hinged terrapin was described and immediately split into 2 subspecies, reflecting the regional differences between populations from the Congo Basin and the Lake Tanganyika region. The East African black mud turtle is now considered confined to areas further east, primarily in coastal Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique. In Tanzania's Eastern Arc Mountains, researchers identified 3 new species of tree toad in one of the world's strangest lineages. These tree toads are unusual not only because of their semi-arboreal lifestyle, but also because they give birth to fully developed young, rather than laying eggs. After hundreds of museum specimens of what was considered a single widespread species had detailed genetic and morphological work performed on them, it was revealed that there were 3 undescribed species hidden among them. Each is restricted to a different high-elevation forest in the Udzungwa Scarp, and Mahenge Mountains, making them highly localized and at risk of being lost, as the forests that blanket the peaks of these mountains are rapidly disappearing. In the Maratus Mountains of southeastern Borneo, researchers surveying forest streams documented a previously unrecognized species of creek frog. It belongs to a group often called fanged frogs, named for the bony projections on the lower jaw. But this population showed consistent differences in body shape, coloration, vocalizations, and larval characteristics compared with other known creek frogs in the region. And this year, the species was confirmed as legitimate. Maratus's creek frog is currently known only from the Maratus Mountains range in South and East Kalimantan, Indonesia, where it inhabits clear, fast-flowing streams at higher elevations. In cold, fast-flowing mountain streams in southeastern Tibet, researchers recently described a small catfish with an unusual body shape. It has an interesting, laterally expanded, flattened head, but the feature that distinguishes it from other similar species are the wart-like fleshy projections along the lower lip. The warty-lobed cicerid catfish was documented from the Zayul River system, where it lives pressed against the streambed in high-gradient waters. Its flattened body and specialized mouthparts are suited to life in strong currents, and its known range appears to be extremely limited. Reef fish are often brightly colored and well-known, as humans tend to spend a lot of time in these habitats. But this year, in the shallow reefs of the Campeche Bank, researchers documented a small species of reef fish that had been overlooked despite living in a well-studied region. It belongs to the hamlets, a group of sea basses known for their striking color variation. But this fish had a distinctive pattern that didn't match any described species. It's been given the common name of Campeche Bank hamlet, and it appears to be endemic to this relatively limited stretch of the Gulf of Mexico, with its closest relatives being the butter hamlet and the Veracruz white hamlet. In Japan's Twilight Zone reefs off of Okinawa, a single shrimp goby collected from about 210 meters deep turned out to be a new species, and it's unique in its genus because of how much deeper it lives compared to its relatives. It's instantly recognizable by its coloration, having distinct bright yellow stripes and spots running along the dorsal side of its body and its fins. This coloration reminded the researchers of the Super Saiyan transformation from Dragon Ball, and the Super Saiyan goby was given its name based on this similarity. It's only known from a single specimen, which measures just under 8 centimeters long. In the deep waters of the North Pacific, researchers described 3 new species of snailfishes this past year. The sleek snailfish is a dark chocolate brown that gets lighter towards its tail. It's commonly observed around Station M off the coast of California, giving it its scientific name, Paraliparis M. The dark snailfish is almost fully black, with a large rounded head. This species is found in the eastern North Pacific, and is named in honor of Dr. Paul Yancey, who has made significant contributions to the field of deep-sea biology and fish physiology. The third species, the bumpy snailfish, is pinkish and covered in small rounded bumps, giving it a noticeably rough appearance. It also has obvious fin rays that add to its interesting look. Its scientific name is Greek for small bumps. Off the deep continental slope of Western Australia's Indian Ocean, scientists were sorting through specimens they had recently collected when they noticed that 6 specimens of shark didn't match any known species. They were small, black lantern sharks with distinct markings on their fins and an unfamiliar pattern to their light-producing organs. Like other lantern shark species, the Western Australian lantern shark uses photophores to glow in the dark, and it carries the classic defense setup of 2 dorsal fins, each with a stout, grooved spine. Manta rays have a complex taxonomy. For over 15 years, some have suggested that those living in the Atlantic Ocean, particularly in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean, may represent their own species. But it wasn't until July of 2025 that this was finally confirmed. One of the clearest distinguishing features is the pattern of white shoulder patches, which form a distinctive V shape rather than the T shape seen in the giant oceanic manta. These mantas also tend to be paler around their mouths and eyes, and their undersides have a spot pattern that tends to be more confined to the abdominal area than in the reef manta. The newly named Atlantic manta ray occurs along the Atlantic coastline of the Americas, from the northeastern United States down to southern Brazil, and the species-specific name, Yari, was chosen in reference to Yara, a water spirit from indigenous Brazilian mythology. In Western Australia's goldfields, a survey of pollinators visiting an extremely rare wildflower in the Bremer Ranges turned up a leafcutter bee that was impossible to miss once researchers took a closer look. Females of this species have tiny, horn-like projections that give them a devilish profile, and it's a feature that isn't known from other closely related bees in the area. So far, it's only been associated with 2 species of plant, including the critically endangered species it was discovered visiting. It's been named the Lucifer bee, a name chosen because of the female's horn-like structures. The discovery is also considered to be of significant conservation importance, because this bee may have a very limited range, in a landscape that's already under significant pressure from habitat disturbance, including mining in the region. In a windswept grassland called the Blackiston Fan in Waterton Lakes National Park, Alberta, lives a small, unassuming hairstreak butterfly. Its appearance is nothing remarkable, being brown-gray overall, but its range is what brought it to the public eye. It was long assumed to be a disjointed population of half-moon hairstreak, the nearest populations of which were found over 400 kilometers to the west and south, in British Columbia and Montana. But when researchers took a look at their genome, they realized that this highly restricted butterfly is actually a distinct species, and it only lives in this one section of prairie that's no more than a few square kilometers in size. It's strongly divergent and has extremely low genetic diversity and a long history of inbreeding, consistent with its isolation, small range, and limited population size. In 2025, it was named the Curiously Isolated Hairstreak, in reference to the tiny strip of prairie grassland where it can be found. Unlike the half-moon hairstreak, which is associated with sagebrush, this species is associated with silvery lupin, and the larvae have a mutualistic relationship with a specific species of ant, in which the caterpillars provide a sweet secretion for the ants to eat, and the ants provide protection in return. Australia has a bad rap for the number of venomous species found in the country, and now it can add one more. For years, spider keepers and venom researchers in the area have been noticing that funnel web spiders from the Newcastle region north of Sydney were unusually large, with some males dwarfing even the biggest Sydney funnel webs. In 2023, a massive individual was captured, and he turned out to be larger than any recognized funnel web spider on record. He was nicknamed Big Boy, and when researchers went back and compared Newcastle specimens with museum material and genetic data, they realized that he wasn't just a one-off, but a member of a previously unrecognized species. The spiders around Newcastle were consistently bigger, anatomically distinct, and genetically separate, and as a result, the Newcastle funnel web spider was formally described this year, making it the largest recognized funnel web spider in Australia. Despite its size, it remains medically manageable, as existing funnel web antivenom is still effective against its bite. You're probably familiar with the terrestrial isopods found in your garden, but there are many species of these crustaceans that live in the ocean, and some of them are surprisingly large. In deep waters off the coast of Vietnam, a supergiant isopod was found hiding in plain sight, having been part of seafood supply chains for a long time. In parts of Asia, giant isopods are sold as a high-end delicacy. Recently, researchers obtained multiple specimens from fishers and seafood markets, and compared them carefully against known species. And there, in the markets, they found a species being sold that was new to science. It was huge, reaching about 32.5 centimeters in length and around a kilogram in weight, with a distinctive head and facial structure that reminded the authors of Darth Vader's helmet and inspired the name Darth Vader giant isopod. The species is currently only known from the coast of Vietnam. In the northernmost highlands of Sumatra, in Aceh, botanists documented a leafless orchid that has long been overlooked. In part because it spends most of its life as a web of green photosynthetic roots pressed flat against bark, only becoming obvious when it flowers, but also in part because it's easily mistaken for another similar species from nearby Java. But the flower structure is distinctive enough to separate it from other leafless orchids, and it was described as a new species named for Waywin Chiasmanto, an Indonesian orchid specialist and conservationist. The species seems to be restricted to Aceh and is only known from 5 locations across 2 regencies, each above 700 meters in elevation. In Big Bend National Park in Texas, botanists noticed a tiny wool-covered plant they didn't recognize. It was covered in dense white hairs, grew low to the ground, and produced interesting radiating flowers, each having 2 conspicuous ray petals. They thought it might be something new, and after the research was completed, they confirmed that it wasn't just a new species, but the sole known member of an entirely new genus of plant, which is a rare find in the United States today. The genus name Ovicula means tiny sheep, while its specific name, Biradiata, is in reference to the species' unique 2-petaled flowers. Its common name is the woolly devil, due to its hairy appearance and its proximity to Devil's Den. Sadly, only 3 small populations of the plant were able to be found, all of which were within only 625 meters of each other. I don't normally cover prehistoric animals on the channel, but when I asked you guys for suggestions for the video, this was the most requested. For decades, small tyrannosaur fossils sat at the center of one of the most heated debates in paleontology. Some researchers argued that these were simply juvenile Tyrannosaurus rexes, while others were of the opinion that they were actually distinct small Tyrannosaur species. That argument was seemingly settled this year after a detailed re-examination of multiple skulls and skeletal features showed consistent differences that couldn't be explained by their age alone, including proportions of the skull, tooth counts, bone fusion patterns, and growth trajectories. Based on this work, Nanotyrannus was formally recognized as its own genus, with 2 species identified, both of which actually lived alongside T. rex rather than growing into it. The decision remains controversial in some circles, but it marks one of the most significant dinosaur taxonomic revisions in years. And that's it for this week's video. Which species did you find the most interesting? And what other species were described this year that I didn't include? Let me know in the comments below. I want to thank all of you for making this year amazing. We just passed 150,000 subscribers. My views tripled over the past year, and the community has grown more than I ever expected it to. So thank you to all of you for being here and for allowing me to do this as my full-time job. I also have to say a special thanks to my patrons and my YouTube members, because without their ongoing support, I wouldn't be able to make a video like this every week. If you want to support the channel, consider joining us over on Patreon. The link is in the video description below. Or become a member here on YouTube by hitting the join button below the video. Members also get early access to the videos, as well as exclusive perks like special badges and custom emojis to use in the comments. Your support helps me to keep making the best content that I can. So thank you for watching, and have a happy new year.